Hi everyone, my name is Karla Gonzales Garcia. I am the Policy Director for the Colorado Organization for Latina Opportunity and Reproductive Rights, Color. So I'm here right now today from Colorado State Capitol to talk to you about racism and anti-blackness within the Latinx community. So we know that the history of this country is based into the genocide of indigenous people, forced labor and violence of African people that came here in a forced way against their will, and also condemn that the story continues with Chinese immigrants as well as Mexican immigrants that were working really hard on the railroads in this country, or to build the railroads in this country, as well as the Japanese intermittent camps that was actually here in Colorado, and also the force or like the use of force to people of color to be put into ghettos and into reservations, all of this just to keep us down. So while we are talking, correct, about the broken systems that are bringing our communities to live in very vulnerable circumstances, we have to literally work to dismantle the same structures that keep us oppressed, that keep exploiting our communities, and keep, unfortunately, white privileged people with money and power. So we know that the Latinx communities has been hurt in so many ways by systemic racism and violence, mass incarceration, deportation, our children being in cages right now. We have a high percent of health disparities. We live in poverty. However, we also have to recognize that we need to work about dismantling anti-blackness within our communities. While both communities, Latinx communities and African American communities, Black communities, have many things in common, we are victims of the same systems of oppressions. We do have to recognize, and we need to work within ourselves and within our communities and families to dismantle anti-blackness in the Latinx communities. We are very used to, like, for example, like when a baby is born, oh look, qué blanquito que es. Like, por favor, we have to start like questioning, why are we saying that? What are those messages in my brain, and what those messages mean? Like, what it makes me think that just because it looks a little lighter skin color, that is like, oh, qué bonito, qué lindo bebé, just because it's like a lighter skin color? We find within our Latinx communities struggling with this internalized bias that lighter skin and whiter skin is better and is beautiful. And it's not just about white people that think that way. It is about within our own communities and how our communities order Black people. We know too that the idea of this American dream, that I work really hard for myself to be where I am at, that's just not true. The reason that we even get to be where we are at is because the help of our communities. It's because the help of our families, our friends, or those who we consider families, our chosen families. So we need to stop participating in the subjugation of other people when we say like, oh no, I did it myself, or like I just like got into this place on my own. That is just not true. That's white supremacy in action. And we have to truly work to tear that down within ourselves and our communities. So a few things that you can do, my friends, is like, one, let's talk about anti-blackness within the Latinx communities. And within that concept, let's talk about colorism. Yeah. Maybe you heard that, maybe you didn't. But colorism is a form of oppression and discrimination, and actually happens within race. Like I just was giving you an example about how sometimes our grandmothers and mothers will be our uncles and aunties, our cousins, sisters, brothers will be like, oh, qué bonito que son más blanquito. Yeah, we got to like stop that. Just because you have lighter skin doesn't mean that you can participate in the oppression and the racism against others. So, and the other thing that we need to be very, very cautious about these two is that for us, you know, we need to recognize that when we have lighter skin, we do have more privilege. And we are somehow, way or another, participating in the discrimination of our brothers and sisters that have darker skin than us. So, and also we need to recognize that Afro-Latinidad within our communities and what we are doing in order to make feel comfortable and also love to our brothers and sisters that are that have these mixed races that are part of our community, our Afro-Latino community. The other thing that we need to do is we need to look and kind of make sure that our Afro-Latinx leaders and those community leaders are being lifted up. Because right now, as we all know, during history, a lot of our indigenous people and Black leaders within our Latino communities have been erased from history. We have to do better at lifting those stories because they are all part and we are all part of lifting our communities. And if we participate in the erasure and invisibility of our Black brothers and sisters that are part of our communities, guess what? You are the oppressor. The other thing that we need to do is support organizations that work eliminating anti-blackness and racism. So we need to do the real work, not just to work with ourselves, but also to challenge those in our group of friends, our family members, our communities. We need to commit to organizations that are doing the hard work because on top of what everything they are facing right now, they are also dealing with our own racism. And with our own internalized racism and bias and oppression. So let's make the work easier for them, and let's make sure that we are putting our money and our actions where they are at. And also making sure that we need to address anti-blackness within our own organizations. For those of us that work, for example, Color, within is a Latinx organization, we have to look into the ways that we need to dismantle anti-blackness and within the organization. We are not perfect, we will never be, and we are in the same path that others into dismantling anti-blackness within our organizations and supporting those other organizations that are fighting anti-blackness and racism. The other thing that we can do is make sure that you are all aware about the policies at the local, state, and federal level. We need to push anti-racist frames and also anti-racist piece of legislations and policies because those impact directly our communities. And if we don't work to dismantle anti-racism within those policies, we are going to keep continuing the hard work of going in the streets, of pushing legislators to do the right thing and making sure that our communities have what they need. And also we need to challenge, again, learn, teach, and challenge our own anti-blackness within ourselves. Because at the end of the day, if you and I do not work on these issues, we will never find the liberation for ourselves and our communities. So here we are, folks. It is a critical time. It will always been a critical time, I would say. And right now, more than ever, you have an opportunity to step out of your comfort zone and question those systems, those structures that are in your mind in order to end racism and anti-blackness within yourself, your families, and your communities. We all are part of the work. It is not that just oh, I know more than you. No, we are all part of the hard work to free ourselves, our families, and our communities. And we must take part into ending anti-blackness within our communities. Thank you all so much. I hope that you take these few words and do something within yourself and your communities. Bye.